The recording. Yes. So good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, over to you. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, are you there? So
might be some technical.
yes, Radhe Radhe, everyone. Yeah, maybe some technical things going on. I don't see. He must be joining shortly.
He was on few minutes ago.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, probably should we make some announcements, Pallaviji?
Yes, I can take that opportunity. Meanwhile, let people join. I think people are still coming in. Sure. But yeah, I can go ahead and make some interesting announcements that we have. So I indeed want to give announcement about the Swamiji's upcoming retreats and programs during his India tour. That is going to be very exciting. There are a lot of events coming up in India from October through December. So geared up with that. I'll be posting all the information in the chat. So first retreat is going to be from October 13 to 16. That is in Banara, Odisha. The second one is from November 18 to 22. November 18 to November 22. That is in Puri Dham, Odisha. And the last retreat for this year, 2022, will be December 25 through 31st, 2022 in Banara. What an exciting retreats and programs are lined up in India. So that will be great. Oh, Radhe Radhe, Nitinji. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe, I'm back. Some technical glitch happened. You have to make me co-host because I'm not able to share my screen right
Yes,
now.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I had to, I don't know what was going on, but I'm glad I'm finally able to connect.
Yes, you're all set.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Good morning, good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. आज के सत्र में आपकी हार्दिक अभिनंदन है because it's Hindi Divas. So it makes sense to welcome you in Hindi as well. So आपका हार्दिक अभिनंदन आज के सत्र में. All right, let's get started. We'll continue on our journey for chapter 2 that we have been doing. And today I picked up a shloka which is all shlokas are important. I mean, it seems like an exaggeration when I do that, but it's very important. This is one of the things that we need to understand, you know, how our senses operate and what Lord Krishna is talking about this concept. Okay, so let me share my screen. We will get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. So like I said, we are going to talk about senses, try to make sense of our senses. Also, we'll see what are the learnings we can get from something as simple as a pendulum, as we see. We all know what pendulum is and how it operates. So we'll derive some inspiration from it and map it to the Bhagavad Gita concept that Lord Krishna is going to talk about. So let's get started. Like always, you're welcome to follow along. If you remember yesterday we were not able to, let's give them precedence, but we'll pick up a few hands and then get started. So let me recite this shloka and then we get started. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadah agama payano nitya Tanstitikshasva Bharata. Okay, do we have any volunteers?
Yeah, I see a lot of hands.
Sure. Let's take a few
Yeah.
hands. Then we get started.
Patit Pavanji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Pavanji, please.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama apayino anitya stam stitikshasva bharata.
Very
Radhe
nice,
Radhe.
Pavanji. I think your partner is probably going to be Bhaktavatsal or Deen Bandhu. I don't know.
Patit, there is a Patit as well here.
Oh, there's Patit also. Patit.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Yeah, Patit ji.
Patit ji, please go ahead. I think.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
Matra sparsastu kaunteya Sitoshna sukha dukkada Agamapayino nitya Tanstitikshitva Bharata.
Very nice. Thank you, Patit ji.
Radhe Radhe Uday ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agam apayino nityas tanstitikshasva bharata. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. All right, we'll pick few more hands.
Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Shri Ramya.
Radhe Radhe. Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkada agamapayino nityas tanstitikshasva bharata. Thank you.
Dhanyavad. Very nice. All right, we
Shri
can pick
Ramya
few more
ji,
hands.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Prabhu.
Radhe Radhe.
Matra sparshashatu kaunteya sitoshvena sukha dukha badha agama paino nityastan titishashva bharataha. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice. Thank you, Surendra ji. Radhe Radhe.
Sai Ram ji, Radhe Radhe.
Pick up all the hands.
Radhe Radhe. Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkadha Agamapayino nityas Tanstitikshasva Bharata.
Wonderful. Sai Ram ji. Okay.
Sumesh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Sumesh ji.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe.
Sparshastu kaunteya Sitoshna sukha dukkada Agamapayino nityas Tantikshasva Bharata.
Wonderful, Sumesh ji. Radhe Radhe. Last four hands then.
Radhe Radhe, Sam ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Matra sparshatu kaunteya Satish Shitoshna sukha dukkada Agma payano nityas Tanstitikshva Bharata. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice. Radhe Radhe. Last three hands. Let's take
Riya
them.
ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkadaha Agamapayino nityas Tanstitikshasva Bharata. Radhe Radhe.
Last two. Radhe Radhe.
Ragi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Kali ji.
Matra sparshastu kaunteya Sitoshna sukha dukkada Agama payino nitya stansi tikshasva bharata.
Wonderful, very nice. Last but not the least, Shruti.
Pratiji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji, Radhe Radhe Nitya. Matra sparshasthu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agamo paino nitya sansitikshasva bharata.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shruti. So let's get started. In this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying, O son of Kunti, the contact between the senses and the sense objects gives rise to fleeting perceptions of happiness and distress. You know, these perceptions, all of us are very, very familiar with it. God is saying they happen when the senses come in contact with the sense objects. And then he has qualified it as fleeting, not something which persists. Fleeting means which comes and goes, transient. He goes on to say these are non-permanent and come and go like winter and summer seasons. And then he says, O descendant of Bharat, we must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Tansti tikshasva. Tansti tikshasva means tolerate. Just tolerate. Edwin Moses, when he was asked what separates him from other athletes, he's one of the American athletes who won multiple gold medals in an Olympic. And he said, what separates me from others is my ability to tolerate pain more than others. So this quality of tolerating is a very, very high quality on the path of spirituality. We don't tolerate, we vent it out. That is a problem. But that doesn't mean you keep on tolerating, right? So where do you draw the line? That is there, but that quality of having an ability to tolerate, taking that hit on the ego, is a great quality to have on the path of spirituality. There's a saying in English also, a bad day for ego is a good day for the soul. Anyways, so now let's get deeper into the topic of our discussion today. So here you see our senses and then the sense objects that Lord Krishna is talking about. I've put one sense object against each of those senses. That sense object may vary from people to people and person to person based on their choice. Right? I've put football there because I like to watch football, tennis, and cricket. But then different people have their own thing. So what they want to watch, what they want to hear, what they want to touch, what they want to smell, what they want to taste. That these are all called sense objects. Okay. The beauty of our scriptures is it just goes on to tell you all things at a very, very fundamental level that we don't even question throughout the course of our life. Human life passes us by and we don't even understand, we were body, mind, sense, intellect, ego, complex. Nobody understands. We simply think we are this thing, what we see in mirror, and keep on carrying on with our lives. Now let's pay close attention to the senses and the sense objects. It's a very important concept. So furthermore, let's understand this concept. Now the sense objects are called subtler than the senses. Okay, when your senses will surprise you by seeking or going after a sense object that you were not even aware of. So the interest that your senses can engage or indulge in is subtler than your senses as well. Because these senses, they reside in a subtle form in your mind, and your mind is from multiple lifetimes. So which part will get activated, we don't know. The sense objects are called subtler than our senses. They are more sukshma than our senses. Further, more subtler than that is our mind. Subtler than our sense objects. Give me a sec, today I'm having a bit of technical problems. Inko takniki. Now it is fine. Today is Hindi Divas, so I'll try to use some technical words, Hindi words as well. All right. So the sense objects are subtler than our senses, and the mind is subtler than our sense objects as well. For example, See, mind is called the governor of our senses, and all of our senses, they reside in a subtle form in our mind. How do we know that? When we go to sleep, your senses are not active, but you still see, taste, touch, feel, experience. Why? Because all those senses they reside in a subtle form in your mind as well. So mind is known to be subtler than even your senses. It doesn't stop here. Subtler than your mind is your intellect. Okay? We are not even aware we have an intellect. At least I was not aware until Swamiji told us that there is something called intellect also. And mind does not do anything without the approval of your intellect. So it's like this. Your senses will not go after something until they have sought the approval of your mind. So the boss of your senses is your mind. And the boss of your mind is your intellect. Mind will not do anything until it is approved by your intellect. How? If you have to catch a flight in the morning and you are feeling sleepy and your intellect says, no, get up. If you miss this flight, it will not be cool. So you will simply get up. When kids say, parents come and tell to teachers, you know what, our kids, he has some focus problems, attention problems, he's not able to concentrate, focus. Okay, the same kid, when he sits in the exam, is able to focus for those 2 or 3 hours, right? We also struggle for most part of our year, not able to study, but when the exams comes, you can finish your books after books in few days. I used to do that in college. We used to have annual system, finish out the entire book which you have not read. Why? Because now your intellect has told you, go after this. This is make or break time in life. That is the power that intellect exerts over mind. So intellect is subtler than our mind. It is more powerful than our mind. The buddhi yoga, we will talk about it. Lord Krishna is going to introduce. So intellect exerts power over mind. Mind exerts power over senses. Okay? Even subtler than our intellect is soul. Now, if I say our soul, that will not be the correct statement. Okay? We are soul. So the soul is even subtler than intellect. And free will is the symptom of the soul. I'm not getting into free will today, but let's understand. We are even subtler than our intellect. That means we have an ability to even override our intellect or observe our intellect. The Sakshi Bhav or the witness consciousness that we talk about, you can actually read your mind. You can see where my senses are going, where they are getting tugged towards, and you can see my intellect is convinced or not. So you can read intellect as well. So that means our soul is even more subtler than our intellect. And that is essentially what our scriptures are telling us as well. So if you look at it, the first category of stuff that I told you is material, and this one is divine. There's a difference. So our scriptures say that being subtler than the material energy, as you see here, the soul is also inconceivable to our intellect, like Kathopanishad is saying. And it goes on to add what I just explained you, that beyond the senses are the objects of the senses. They are subtler. And beyond that, subtler than that, those are the mind. Beyond the mind is the intellect, and subtler than the intellect is the soul. And the material intellect can only comprehend material concepts. Right? It is material, so it can have a knowledge only of material things. So knowledge of self, which is divine, requires something beyond that material faculty that we have. And that is their scriptures, which is divine, and Guru, who is God realized, they come into the picture. Okay? I hope you understand this concept. Right? Because it is divine, and what we are seeing on the left is material. So it's not possible for us to understand that. Even the scriptures are the flight of our intellect. By doing all the gymnastics through our intellect, we cannot understand scriptures. No matter how intellectual, how intelligent you may think you are, you cannot. Okay? It will confuse you, it will trick you. That is the thing. So let's continue. Yes, Levani, you had a question?
Radhe Radhe Nitinji. Can you elaborate a little more about the sense objects You said that they are subtle to the senses. Can you give? It's hard to grasp for me. What are these?
So senses is something immediately perceptible. I know what I like to see. I know what I like to taste. But sense objects, they are subtler because those vishyas, right? Vishya means the object of your sense objects goes subtler because that is something which is captured in your what do you call that, somewhere in your mind, right? It comes as something, your propensities, tendencies that you have acquired across lifetimes. So in this lifetime, for now, you may think, okay, this is what I like to see, but your eyes will surprise you by looking at something that you were not even aware of that would interest you. Those kind of things can happen.
Okay, so this kind of tendencies for like craving of senses exist on like very subtle levels, like
yes,
okay.
craving of our senses. Yes, that goes much deeper. And
Okay,
mind is
thank
subtler than our senses. Yeah. So this is the quick primer on our senses. Okay, we'll try to make sense of our senses, and finally we'll conclude that they are nonsense. Okay, but let's continue. So human body houses 5 senses. Sense of sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing, these in contact with their objects of perception. That is what Lord Krishna is telling in this shloka. When it comes in contact with the object, it gives rise to feelings. There is feeling we get. This is what I want. This is what I want to avoid. This is what I want more of. This is what I really need to stay away from, right? So this is when we get that, then it gives us happiness. When we don't get it, it gives us distress, right? That's what. Now what Lord Krishna is saying, see, if we have to endear ourselves to God or become his priya in Hindi, dear to God, then we have to understand this principle, what he's talking about, okay? And I will bring that concept again. So he's saying happiness and distress. Furthermore, he goes on to say, none of these sensations is permanent. They come and go like changing seasons. As you see, seasons, are we stuck with the season forever? No, right? The seasons change. Like if you are in Phoenix, then I can say you are stuck with the season for a while, but typically seasons change. And water, although the water, it provides us pleasure and relief in summer, same water, it's giving us distress in winter. Both the perceptions of happiness and distress through our senses are transitory. It's a function of something. Okay, that's something we will look at. Seasons change. Furthermore, he goes on to say that if we permit ourselves to be affected by them, we will sway like a pendulum. Okay, now the introduction of pendulum is coming. Side to side. A person of discrimination should practice to tolerate both the feelings. Tansti tikshasva. Bharata. Tansti tikshasva means tolerate. Just tolerate. Very high level. Without getting disturbed by that. Now this practice in Buddhism of Vipassana is actually based on this concept only. You simply tolerate. Right? Body scanning, you sit there, it's itching, sit there, just tolerate. You know, your blood is getting collected in your knees and you start feeling that heaviness and you feel like changing your position, just tolerate. So Vipassana is just based on that. You simply learn to tolerate. That itself would give you that, deeper understanding about who you are, because that's not you truly. Right? It will start breaking it down into fundamental components. Even the principle of itch, when the itch comes, if you start scratching it, temporary relief, again the itch comes back. If you simply tolerate it, it goes away by itself. Just try it out next time. Think Krishna is, teasing you with that itch. Learn to tolerate it and see where the itch goes. Okay, so that can happen too. Just give me a sec, something happened that I need to fix now. Okay, give me a sec. Okay, hopefully last of the technical glitches, technical problems. Okay, so this is the concept of tolerating. Now let's go to the pendulum principle that we brought about. So if you look at the pendulum, it's a pretty interesting thing, right? A lot of physics phenomena you can actually observe through the pendulum itself. Now, a pendulum, we know it sways from one end to another end, right? In physics, I think it is called amplitude. The more further away it goes from the equilibrium, that amplitude. Now, if you think about it deeply, Shirame, you had a question real quick? Or is it something that can wait? Yeah.
Yes, Sri Ramya ji, please go ahead.
I can wait till end, or I can ask now. You can answer the time maybe. I had the same question now. Sense objects are subtler than senses, because sense objects are something which we can touch and feel, right?
We'll get
Subtle
to it.
means we can't perceive with our senses. So aren't these gross? That was my question.
We'll get back to it. Okay, let me finish off everything and we'll come back to that question. Okay, so if you look at the pendulum, one way is okay, it is oscillating between two things, right? That is fine. But even if we apply simply the physics formula around it, right, you see when it starts gaining amplitude on either side, it is gaining the potential energy because it's gaining height. And when something gains potential energy, that gets converted to kinetic energy, the momentum takes it to the other side. Okay? So the higher it goes on one side, the more it will go on the other side. हंसकर हमने रोने को दावत दे दी. That is the concept there. So when you go on one extreme in life, right, you get super excited. Let's party because I did this. That means you have already laid the foundation or the breeding ground to go to the other extreme. Oh, now I am depressed because so and so thing did not happen. So what Lord Krishna is saying is decrease your amplitude and bring it to a state of equilibrium. How will it happen? When you don't get excited by any extreme stimuli. Now let's imagine the pendulum, it gets a strike from one end and it simply is able to tolerate it. It stays at the equilibrium, and it gets strike from other side. It simply tolerates it, stays here. So the more you stay closer to the equilibrium, understanding that it is fleeting, it is temporary, and it is a feeling that my senses are getting, not me, I am soul, coming in contact with these. When you tolerate that, now the next question will come, what kind of a life is that? It will become boring, Neeraj. Now I'm not even allowed to enjoy. I'm not even allowed to, go sad and all that. That is fine. But when Lord Krishna is saying, he has thought through that. If you learn to tolerate, right, simply say, okay, God, I know I'm feeling very excited, but I know this is something which will not. Thank you for that. And you learn to tolerate and say, okay, you've given that, express your gratitude and figure out, okay, I get it. Tomorrow I may even have a failure or a bad thing. Then also I'm not going to complain about it. Then what God gives you, the joy he enables from within, as you start aligning to that, is much higher than that temporary kick or thrill or excitation of mind that you feel by choosing to ride that emotion. Okay, so let's look at it this way. This is the pendulum. Okay, this is the equilibrium position for it. This is one extreme, you get super excited. Something good happened in life and wow, party time. It's about time to enjoy. We have arrived in life. And then, because you have gained that, this other extreme is just a matter of time that will happen. Nobody can say, I'm just going to enjoy the amplitude on one side only. So if you are prone to becoming super excited for everything, then you are prone to go to the other extreme as well. All right. So we need to check our behavior around this by observing ourselves, because we are soul. We can witness our intellect can witness our mind, and mind can actually control the senses. And senses, once controlled, no matter how enticing the object in front of you is, you can control yourself. Yeah, Maharaj gives that beautiful example, Swamiji also gives. Let's say you are fond of Rasgulla or Gulab Jamun, and you have been fasting. And you've been fasting and you are just thinking, okay, the moment I'm going to break the fast at 12:01, I'm going to have hot gulab jamun. I'm going to treat myself with hot gulab jamun. And you've been fasting, and then it's 12:01. And the hot gulab jamun is served in front of you. And just the thought of that is making you salivate, how quickly I can sink my teeth into it. And you get that hot gulab jamun and you like to take it, after fasting for 3 days. And see, your senses are itching for it, for the sense object. And it has craving for it. It cannot wait. And at that moment, somebody comes and tells you, you know what, there is a poison in it. Immediately you'll throw it away. Detachment, complete detachment. How did it happen? Intellect took the decision, told the mind told the senses obeyed. Okay. So that is the ability that we have with our intellect. And soul has even higher power through the Sakshi Bhav that we are talking about. So next time you feel like really riding a high, just tell yourself, I'm creating a breeding ground for going to the other extreme. Let me tolerate it by expressing gratitude to God. Okay, I know the whole world is made in dualities like day, night, winter, summer. All things will come and go. Doesn't mean I'm obliged to ride it and not aligned to the principle that Lord Krishna is telling us about. Maintain your amplitude. Don't become like a wildly swinging pendulum in life. Totally depressed, totally happy, super excited, super sad. That's not what. And when we do that, we become favorite, dear to Lord Krishna. That's what he's telling. Okay? So that is the concept of pendulum. Let's move on. Now, why are our emotions fleeting? I'll tell you a story, beautiful story. The good thing about Swamiji is, Maharaj is that they gives us such beautiful analogies that next time you just have to remind yourself of those stories and that concept will be super clear to you. Okay. Let me tell you another story now. As you look at this guy, okay, no, not guidance, not coming yet. There's a grand fire happening right now. Okay, something is burning to ashes. And this guy Ramesh, or maybe Romario, whatever you may want to call it, is upset. He's upset because his factory is on fire. Okay, his lifetime puji, whatever he has done, he had put it in factory and it is on fire. And evidently he's upset over it. His heart is sinking just looking at the very sight of that factory burning. He's crestfallen, despondent, and totally inconsolable, as you can see his expression, right? Very, very sad, super upset. And then his son comes and tells, by the way, Dad, why are you upset? He said, our factory is up in flames and you're asking me why I'm upset. He said, you know what? We sold this factory just a couple of days back. Have you forgotten? As it so happens, this guy is suffering from selective amnesia. Okay, he keeps on forgetting things. And then his little boy reminds him that, you know what? This factory was already sold to a guy a couple of days back. And immediately you see his expression changed. He's super happy now. Very happy. Within a fraction of seconds, he's become very happy and excited. Thank God, this factory is stolen and it brings him back to happiness. But then his boy tells him, you know what? The check bounced. This guy had given us a check, but it actually bounced, Dad. Now this guy is again sad. Oh my God. That means the deal is also still not closed. What's going to happen now? Again, he's back to the same emotion. But then his boy said, but Dad, you know what? He's a man of honor. Although the check is gone, but because he had committed to the deal, he's going to pay for us. Again, he's happy. So what's going on with this guy? If you look at it, anybody wants to take? So if PK were to come here and look at the expression of these guys, what do you think he'll make out of it? Who is PK? Okay, if you don't know, the guy who's going to look at it very objectively, who doesn't understand what's going on with this guy. What do you think is going on here? Anybody who wants to explain that?
Yes, Radhe Radhe, Patit Pavanji, go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. This guy is attached to his factory. He thinks, the happiness is in the gain, not in the loss.
True, very true. There's an attachment aspect of it as well. And look at his emotion, how wildly it's swinging, just because of the fact that he thinks that there's happiness, there's distress, there's happiness, there's stress. Okay. Yes, Anubhuti, and our junior Sakhi duo. Let's hear from them quickly, and then I'll give you another illustration of this concept so that it becomes even more pakka. Yeah.
Yes, Anubhuti ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead. Anubhuti and Urvi ji.
Radhe Radhe. I just wanted to say that happiness does not depend on the external circumstances, and it depends upon how we look at the circumstances and upon our thoughts. So this man actually, he does not have proper knowledge, and therefore his happiness, it's depending upon the external circumstances. But if he fixes his mind, everything will be all right.
Beautiful.
Radhe.
You have your Tattva Gyan rock solid foundation that you have. I'll get back to that. Very nice. Yes, let's hear. A couple of other hands are there. Let's hear from them, and then I'll move forward. I'll want to show you something else as well, just to reinforce this concept.
Yes, Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. His totally attachment to the material world is more, and that there is selfishness. Mine, I, myself, or the things are mine. It is mine. So the things the thoughts are there, like it is mine. Then the more expressions or the more emotionally they will get disturbed.
True.
So that's
true. And look at feelings. They're so fleeting, right? In a moment he's happy. In a moment he's sad. And it's a function of a thing. Obviously he's got an attachment to it, and he thinks that's a cause of misery, this is a cause of happiness. It's just coming and going. It's very transitory around it, depending upon what he's being told and where he thinks his self-interest would get fulfilled. Yes, Pallavi ji, you wanted to add as well?
Yeah, I was just about to say that he is just being on and off, and he's just being emotionally unstable, because he is not able to take anything either. In both the extreme, he is being unstable.
True. I mean, it's obviously an exaggerated story, but that's actually the story of our lives as well. We get happy and then we get sad at our micro level for various things, and this happened, now I'm sad, and this happened, now I'm happy. We are subservient to our mood and our mind, and it's very rarely we exercise our intellect, and soul is anyways sleeping. So we keep operating at our senses, mind level only. Sense objects, senses, mind, these three things. Arjun also, by the way, right now he's feeling distress. Right? He's looking at it, okay, this is where my attachment is, and if it gets, this obviously out of ignorance, and he's also feeling that distress at this point, in a way, right? And his emotions are also, Krishna is going to put them in perspective. Now let's reinforce this concept through another example here, something really to think about. Now here is a car. Somebody brought a new car. Okay, their dream car. Now this guy is super excited to see this car. Very, very happy because he has bought this car. There's another guy, his neighbor, he has become sad and envious. This guy has a car and I don't have it. Now the object is the same. There are two different emotions related to that object, right? And then there is another guy who's like, whatever, man. Car is a car. You just use it to go from point A to point B, or do groceries. What's a big deal about the car? So this guy is completely neutral to that concept, whatever it is. Similarly, it can happen when somebody has a good palatial house, let's say. Right? Palatial house, somebody's happy. Somebody might be sad and envious. I don't have it. This guy has it. When will I have my own? Some guy is neutral. It's like he says, this world is not a dharam, like live in this world like a dharamshala, where you don't care because we are not going to take along anything along with it. So how does it matter what kind of a house do I have, right? The third guy is completely neutral to the same thing. And of course, if you look at this concept, this can be applied to a lot of other things as well. It happened again. All right. So the point here is, if you look at the object itself, if it had happiness, right? You look at people, they enjoy certain kind of food and drink. Somebody may not even say, okay, why don't I get this kind of a life? What a life they have. And somebody is completely neutral to it. Now, if the object in itself had happiness, it should have given the same happiness and the same quantum of happiness to everybody. That means something is missing here. You want to add something to it? What is missing here? My question on this one is, what is the underlying cause of different emotions for different people for the same object?
Yes, Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
The knowledge of the value of the object, true knowledge, or
Yeah. So the happiness or the distress is not in the object. Right? That is first thing we can see. If that was in the object, see, it's like fire. If it gives you pain, if you put your hand in it, it gives pain to everybody if you put your hand in it. But these objects, they are giving different feelings to different people. That means inherently, these objects neither have happiness or distress related to them. There is something more related to it. Yes, Pavanji, please go ahead. So knowledge aspect is important. Sandhya brought that out.
They are contemplating. They are contemplating that the happiness lies there. And the contemplation differs from person to person.
Yes, they have contemplated that happiness lies there for sure. Yeah, and that is giving them those feelings, right? Yes, Surendra ji.
Yes, Surendra ji, please go ahead.
कुछ नहीं, जो कुछ है सो तोड़.
जो कुछ है सो तोड़, yeah.
The moment we have that knowledge that nothing belongs to me, it is all the grace and abundance from the Lord, then all these miseries and happiness, etc., they are all momentary, temporary, and we don't have to be dwindled by any of them.
Right. Yep.
Our Hindi day says today.
Right. Very true. Thank you, Surendra ji. I can see 3 more. I can take real quick, and then I'll get this discussion forward, move this discussion forward by bringing in the concept that I wanted to talk about. Yes, Rahul, you wanted to add something?
Rahul ji, please go ahead. Yeah.
Your audio is not. Radhe Radhe.
अगर हिंदी में बोले तो सारा खेल चिंतन का है. जिसने जैसा चिंतन बना लिया कि भाई इसमें खुशी है तो बस वैसे ही उसको मिलना.
It's all related to chintan, contemplation. Very true. Yes.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yes, Vijay ji, you wanted to add something?
Vijay ji. Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Vijay ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. So past experiences which they keep contemplating about again and again, that just solidifies as emotions.
Yep, that's true. Very true. Good point. Shri Ramya ji, you wanted to add something?
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Radhe Radhe.
Attachment we have towards the objects, it's a positive or negative attachment. Based on that, we would be experiencing that happy or sad emotions around the object.
True. Very true. Yes, Anubhuti and junior duo, Sakhi duo.
Radhe Radhe everyone. So I just wanted to add that when we attach our feelings and emotions to a particular object, we make a perception that that particular object or the thing will make us happy. Or so at the end, we try to again and again try to achieve that object or a feeling. So it's a wrong approach, I believe. So that's what I feel. We make a perception about something. Yeah.
Beautiful. Very nice, Anubhuti. You have really dissected it to a fundamental level. So keep it up. Good. Yes, Levani ji, you wanted to add, and let me add now, and then I'll take the remaining hands. Let me add a few things and take the discussion forward on this. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that the main reason why some different people have different emotions is that the object itself does not have happiness in it. And it's only dependent on the contemplation and the mirage that we build upon it. I think this is the main reason.
Yes, yes, very true, very true. You all are hitting that key point here, and I'm just going to expand on that. I see one new hand, Ashwini Bansalji. Please, where are you joining us from? And love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Ashwini ji, please go ahead.
Shri Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Basically, what object one should have in mind is important. Like in spirituality, if Krishna consciousness is there in the mind, and our mind is fixed, focused on that, constantly by reminding. That is the thing which if one can achieve, because God is the source of all Ananda, Paramananda. So one can attain the goal by doing that.
Yeah.
Shri Ram.
Very nice. Where are you joining us from, Ashwini ji?
I'm from India, Navi Mumbai.
Good to hear from you. Thank you. All right, so I'll take the remaining hands. Thank you, Ashwini ji. Beautiful points. Let me move this discussion a little forward. So if you look at it, the objects in themselves do not have neither happiness nor distress. And you're all right when you talk about it's the way we look at it, right? What we have contemplated happiness or gives us that feeling, that fleeting feeling. So I will introduce that concept maybe another session. There are two worlds. There's an inner world and there is an outer world. Okay, our inner world is tormenting us with these fleeting feelings. That big world that we have created inside of us. Okay, that inner world is responsible for it. And yes, like Anubhuti and a lot of you talked about the contemplation part of it. Why would you contemplate happiness on something? Because your mind is telling you there is happiness in it. Why would your mind tell you that there is happiness in it? Because your intellect is convinced there is happiness in it. Why is your intellect convinced there is happiness in it? Because the knowledge that is you have activated in your intellect tells you this is important. Where is that knowledge or that belief? Because intellectually you carry that belief that you know what, this is where the true happiness is. And where is that belief coming from? Obviously from the knowledge, right? So they say factually we walk, we don't walk by sight, we walk by our belief. And belief system is something, it is so important and fundamental to our existence that can define the trajectory of our life. And that belief is something we don't even systematically acquire. We just let it happen to us. How do we let it happen to us? By the informal knowledge that is being fed to us. World says that, marketing campaigns say that, my friends tell me that, my parents expect that out of me. This is how the world is supposed to be. This is what I have seen around. This is what my uncle told me the other day. All that is informal way of acquiring or building solid beliefs. And the knowledge that you have acquired, which is resulting in that belief, which is telling the intellect that your mind should be doing this and your mind is directing your senses towards that, is based on erroneous knowledge. So the foundation of it is the knowledge. And the knowledge says acquiring things, material things, having a car is where happiness is, having a big house is where the happiness is, having a great lifestyle is where the happiness is. That is what is leading us to all that. What happens then? Your senses go after that. When your senses go after that, sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you'll not get it, sometimes you'll get it, and then it will come back with the redoubled intensity. I need more of it, and that cycle just keeps on repeating. And that is why these fleeting feelings of distress and happiness will continue to persist through our lives. Lord Krishna is saying, just know it as a duality, like you see in nature. Tolerate it with your higher understanding of your higher self there. Use your mind, use the power of your intellect, use the power of your Sakshi Bhav, whatever it takes, and understand, have the big picture. This is all temporary, whatever I'm experiencing, and this too shall pass. It's just transient, and then I don't need to get disturbed during the time of distress. We are not disturbed when we're happy. We are in a good state at that point. Just understand that will also go away. And then when you get depressed, tolerate it and move over it quickly, as opposed to continuing to be depressed, continuing to complain, continue to whine. That is something we should refrain from in order to attract God's grace. All right, so we'll get to a bit of a discussion. I can see a few hands. They'll take that. For that, I wanted to bring in for the action of the day quickly, because we've been talking about fear aspect of it. Just 2 minutes I'll spend, and then we will get to the discussion. I can see 3 hands raised related to what we are discussing today. We spoke about the fear, the need to create a journal, documenting our fears, the underlying attachments, reasons, whether they belong to our circle of control, and the action, that we can do. And then we brought in some tools around it as well. The fear, the implementation aspect of it, you need to do systematic desensitization, the scaling, put it in perspective. Is it really the worst that has happened? And educating yourself by arming yourself with the right knowledge. If you're fearful of flights and close, there are ways to educate yourself. The next step, of course, is to implement it. And the best way to implement it is, if you've already documented it, declare it to yourself. You could put it on portal, or you can just put it in your wherever you want to, that these are the things I will do to systematically desensitize myself to the fear that I have. How would you do that? You can put down some steps for yourself, but declare once you make it, like it's like a affirmation. When you start making it, then you start realizing tangible benefits out of it as well. It brings a self accountability around it as well. Otherwise, our mind has a tendency to sweep it under the carpet. When you note it down and you say, these are the things I will do to systematically desensitize myself from this fear that I keep playing in my mind, then you will start realizing tangible benefits around it as well. So we need to tackle it systematically. So this is the call for action today. Put it down. If you want to put it on a portal, declare it to the world, even better. That will bring in more accountability. And then keep sharing it. We have our portal discussions anyway going on right now, including the daily summaries that Jyoti is putting in. We want to do that. I've already created a thread on fear. Do check it out and start doing it. Start taking benefits from that as well. Okay, so with that, now let's get back. I can see a few hands. They wanted to add something to the discussion today. So let's take some of those hands as well.
Yes, Radhe Radhe, Chandraji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Chandraji.
Radhe Radhe. I was saying that the question you asked, why our emotions, they are fleeting. It's because of the unstable feelings. I have a recent experience. The condominium complex where I live, I just recently bought a whole big bunch of flowers, spent $25 for one pot, almost 4 pots. And unfortunately, someone or the other has been picking from these flowers, one stalk here, one stalk there, one stalk, and the big bush has reduced. It's become so small. And my attachment to these flowers was so tremendous that it was like, I was feeling robbed. I was feeling desensitized, and the feeling of the burdensome that I had of the attachment suddenly reduced. It just diminished and it just got lost. Why? Because of the awareness that this is not for me. Maybe it's not what I want. Maybe I should spend more time with my spiritual devotion and awareness. And that's where again I came back into my, doing the scriptures and everything. So just the explaining, the distress went away, the attachment went away, and I did not feel burdened at all. So just wanted to share my experience.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Very true. Beautiful, Chandruji. That's true. Sometimes when we take a step back and really think about it, why am I stressing over this thing? Is it something for my mind and my body that I'm stressing over? Is it truly something that my soul would become better off or become any less if I get it or don't get it? That helps put things in perspective as well. But we get too hung up in our attachments and our mind, the way it troubles us, that we make a big deal out of it in our mind. It's a great realization, and thank you for sharing that, Chandruji.
Yeah, thank you, Chandruji. Radhe Radhe, Sairamji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. First of all, let me start off by saying I'm not very qualified to add much, but it just so happened that last night I read something and it kind of rings a bell with what is being discussed today in class. Swamiji had said that a donkey does not know whether it's carrying chandan or a pile of garbage. and we are so caught up in material activities that we forget to look at the big picture. And just yesterday, I was reading through some posts on Facebook, and it seems like Paramhamsa Yogananda also is saying something very similar. And these are his words, not mine. And what he had said is, the mule that carries a bag of gold on its back does not know the value of that load. Likewise, man is so absorbed in toting the burden of life, hoping for some happiness at the end of the trail, that he does not realize he carries within him the supreme and everlasting bliss of the soul. Because he looks for happiness in things, he does not know he already possesses a wealth of happiness within himself.
That is so true, Saj. That is so true. Actually, just one realization that Maharajji says and Swamiji says as well in his lecture, one realization can make a whole lot of difference in our life. What is that one realization? See, if we are, let's say, we are very powerful, or we are influential, or let's say we have hit a jackpot, and we are become a billionaire or a trillionaire or something of that sort. That feeling that I have it just gives us a sheer joy, bliss, and a sense of power within, sense of joy within ourselves. And here we are carrying God with us, which we are completely oblivious of. The soul, actually, if you look at it, energized by God, He's our companion. If we simply realize it, that itself will make us fearless, joyful, and all the good things that we are looking for. Because we don't have that conception, that understanding, we continue. And you brought in a beautiful point, Saramji. It's just like scriptures say, like a kasturi mrig, right? The aroma that it is searching for is coming from its own body, and it keeps searching around for it throughout its life, and falls into the hunter's trap as well. So that is the true. And spirituality is all about awakening that understanding and getting that knowledge, which takes us closer to our truer self, and which takes us closer to that feeling of bliss, happiness, joy, peace, whatever we are seeking, and the knowledge, of course. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Sairamji. I just want to take a quick moment to remind everyone that there is the link to feedback tracker that is posted in the link chat. And there are some links posted for the Swamiji's upcoming tours in India. Please take a look at a couple of announcements. And one is about the satsang, which is we have Sunday satsang at Radha Krishna temple. And one more event is about the learning about Garba. So please take a look at all those links, which is posted in the chat window.
Yeah, there's a Garba workshop going on. Do check it out. It's packed crowds right now, and you can learn that and dance away to glory during Navratris.
Yeah, I wish I would have been there to learn to do Garba nicely, huh?
Pallavi, you'll be moving here very soon, so you will get
Thank you, Nitinji. We can move ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have, it's close to 10. Officially, our session ends at 10. So we will spend a little bit more time, and then the devotional segment, 10:15, is when we will put a full stop so that we can get that discipline. Yeah, let's spend maybe a few minutes, if you have real quick hands on any of they wanted to add to the discussion.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Lakshmi ji, please go ahead.
Lakshmi ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe everyone. To my small perception regarding this topic, the two reasons why we get wrongly attachment to this material objects is, first is a real lack of real knowledge regarding that material object. And the second one is imparting the wrong knowledge by non-scriptural pathways. And the third is comparison with the others unnecessarily regarding the material objects, whether we really need that, or is it we have a real happiness in that. So all this three makes us a wrong attachment to this material worlds. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
So I'll tell you a quick story now. So this was a guy, God, a lot of people, they went to God, with their complaints. So God said, okay, let's make a deal. You bring all your troubles to me, and I will swap it with one thing that you always wanted to have. How about this deal? So everybody said, Sure, we'll take that deal. Nothing better than that. So everybody brought in all the problems that they had, right? The things that they did not have, memories and stuff like that. And the thing that they always wished for, they brought that as well in their mind. Okay. So God said, see, I will give it to you, but you will still not be happy. They said, no, we will be. We are going to trade it off. We said, fine. So they all put all their things and immediately they got a trade-off with the thing that they always wanted. But within 2 minutes, they were again unhappy. You know why? Does anybody know why? They got it what they wanted, but they were still happy. Within 2 minutes, everybody became unhappy again. Why? Anybody?
They wanted more.
More is fine, but because see, when they got their things, they started looking around. Okay, the other person got this got. So immediately said, okay, I wish I could have asked that. So that comparison and all stuff that you spoke about, right? That continues in our life as well. Immediately said, okay, I should have asked for this. This guy got this guy got this. And that is the story of our life. When you start doing that, it's never going to give you happiness because how far will you go? This guy, Jeff Bezos, is unhappy because Richard Branson was the first one to go to moon. Right? So though they have their own kind of problems. Indra is unhappy because he wants to become Brahma. So this continues all the way up to Brahmalok. Nobody's happy. God says, continue doing that, you will never be happy. Only way to become happy is if you start aligning to the principles I am telling you and you start attaching your mind to me because I am bliss. But if you think the world will give me happiness if I get this, if I get that, it's never going to happen. Okay, let's take a few hands, remaining hands.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Nitinji, for explaining that. Sumeshji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
राधे राधे। ये सच है कि संसार में सर्वत्र ड्युअलिटी है, दिन है तो रात भी है, गर्मी है भी है, और तो हमें इससे प्रभावित नहीं होनी चाहिए, इनके संपर्क में नहीं आनी चाहिए और अपने इंद्रियों को इनके विषयों से हटाकर मन का दमन करना चाहिए तथा उन्हें भगवत विषय में लगा देना चाहिए। जैसा कि भगवान ने कहा कि विहाय कामान यः सर्वान् पुमांश्चरति निस्पृहः निर्ममो निरहंकारः शांति मधिगच्छति। राधे राधे। थैंक यू।
बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत ही उत्तम विचार आपके सुमेश जी। आपने हिंदी दिवस पे हमें आशा जी को की उपस्थिति का कॉम्पनसेटेड फॉर इट, हिंदी के शब्द नहीं आ रहे हैं, बट बहुत हमें अपने विषयों इन पे इंद्रियों का दमन करना है और उनको विषयों से हटा के सही जगह लगाना है। वेरी नाइस, थैंक यू फॉर sharing that. Okay, let's take a few more hands. Maybe we'll do one kirtan or two kirtans today, not more than that, because we are getting into that time already.
Padmaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Padmaji.
Radhe Radhe. Something to contemplate on. There are deep-rooted, undeniable vipassanas that are sitting in our memories. Vipassanas as in obsessed with either our bodies or somebody else's body. Vipassanas of validation.
You mean vipassana or vasana?
Vasana, sorry. Vasana, right? Vasanas, right? I think vasanas is like, yeah. Vasanas of like the deep-rooted impressions on our mind from lifetime after lifetime, whether it is an object or validation or success or a car or money or anything which is away like from God. If it was our vasana was on God, then we would be God realized by now. And since we are not, so all these impressions of our mind on different things, right? You know, one might be, and I'm going back to the question that you asked, one might be very impressionist mind, you know, they might have an impression is that, you know, as long as people are saying you're so successful, you made so much money, you know, their mind is happy because they have those impressions. And if somebody is like, okay, you're so beautiful, they have those impressions. If somebody is so attached to somebody else, whether it's mother, father, husband, child, whatever, so we have all those impressions, different impressions that we all have from different lifetimes, and also the impressions that we're making today in this life or where you're contemplating, and that becomes more stronger of the previous impressions that we have. So there is a past impressions and also the impressions that we're imposing on the past impressions presently which are happening, that kind of drive you towards your tendencies, not just of what is happening today, but based on what has happened in your mind and the memories that we have left. It's driving you towards that impressions and a strong zeal of wanting, somebody likes your post, somebody says you're good. So whatever that impression mind is, right? So you will go into the direction unless you pause yourself and do that self introspection, whether it's a blessing of God, whether the situations comes your way, but and also blessing of God that Guru and God gives you that knowledge, and you are in that state of mind when you're willing to self contemplate and introspect yourself and say, you know what, my mind is driving, my tendencies are driving this way, but what can I do? God, please help me. Guru, please help me. So that self introspection, when you're genuinely, intentionally and deliberately sitting and contemplating on yourself and say, yeah, my tendencies are this, but what can I do? Then that silencing which happens will naturally happen. And that might mean for some people not doing anything about that situation whatsoever, even if the situation calls for like, oh my God, this looks very, very serious, and there is a calling that you have to do, there is a duty towards that situation. But your inner calling, when you self-contemplate on yourself, our impression mind always tells us that there is something that you have to do about situation. But many times when you silence your mind, the answer will come back and say, you don't have to do anything about that particular situation or thought. So that is like a training process. When you depend on God and Guru, that will eventually come where you acknowledge that you really don't have to do anything about that situation, and you don't have to validate your impression minds about what people want from you or what situation wants from you. That is a process that you gradually develop within yourself, and you will find yourself in that place where you're just not doing anything about anything, but you're doing a lot internally which is not doing anything, and you will experience that you're actually doing a lot, which is in the sense that you're connecting with your consciousness and the silence that you're supposed to feel from inside.
Well, that's an interesting perspective, for sure. It's like the duck. It seems like it's not doing anything, but if you look at inside the water, it is pedaling really hard. Yeah, if you surrender, God can give you direction around that, what to do and how to navigate through that situation. Thank you for your inputs, Padmaji. All right, I can see one more hand, and then we can move on to our segment.
Yeah, thank you, Padmaji. Radhe Radhe, Urviji and Anubhutiji, are you ready with your guitar?
Oh, you're ready with your guitar? Okay.
Yes, I'm going to sing something, but I had a question.
Sure.
I wanted to ask that to apply our knowledge, theoretical knowledge, practically in a more efficient manner. Swamiji says that earlier I used to do that, this video, this lecture series, and this is written in the book, and all of it all together. And then I used to get a bit confused. So then I started thinking of taking one step at a time. But I actually want to know that like I have already like heard so many lectures, so I have so many things going on in my mind. So how to efficiently take that one step at a time so that we can apply the theoretical knowledge in a better manner in the practical life?
Yeah, so you'll have to pick that nugget for yourself, which you think is beneficial for you. So what happens, even I've been part of this as well, you want to acquire all the knowledge from all the quarters, and that gives you a lot of satisfaction that I want to acquire everything. But actually, in order to progress, even a small nugget is good enough, right? In due course of time, see, if you ask what is the topmost agenda of our life, is to develop love for God, right? So everything that you do, when you start channelizing it towards that activity, then that is serving the purpose automatically, right? It's automatically serving the purpose for that. Or maybe if you can give me 4 examples of things with an offline conversation, maybe that these are the 4 things. Okay, this knowledge says this, this says this, this says, now which one to prioritize, how do I do that? And then there are 3 more things that I'm not clear about, then I can put it in perspective. But typically for us to progress, little bit of knowledge is usually good enough for us to take the next step. And then what is needed for us at that next step, that also gets revealed. But really depends on what is your context around it. So we can talk more about it. Let's talk when you have time. We can discuss that and bring it to the session as well, so for the benefit of all the participants, because we have to relate it to the context that in which you're talking about right now.
Nitinji, can I quickly just add one point to this conversation?
Yeah.
I think attending 21-day challenge program, that definitely helps.
Yeah,
At least it worked for me.
21-day challenge is Swamiji's 21-day challenge is a good one. If you want to do that,
Yeah.
mind management challenge, that is there. You can do
There is mind management challenge, happiness challenge,
happiness challenge is there. Yeah.
and purpose of life challenge.
So pick up any challenge you do that will give you a good clarity around, what you're looking for typically. But let's talk about it, what you're talking about. I think it should be a pretty generic stuff that we all struggle with, so we can talk through that as well.
All right.
All right, you're ready for your music then. Let's have a bit of a kirtan in a different way today with all the gadgets, instruments that we have. And that will be a good rounding off for today's session. I'm glad you are all prepared today with that. Do we have anybody? Swamiji is there as well. Okay, we'll have 2 kirtans then today. And that should take us to the time. You'll have to unmute yourself. There's a small technical requirement.
Please go ahead. Yeah. Radhe Radhe.
Okay, Radhe Radhe. We'll be singing Achyutam Keshavam.
All right, please.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Achyutam Keshavam Krishna Damodaram Ram Narayanam Janaki Vallabham. कौन कहते हैं भगवान खाते नहीं, कौन कहते हैं भगवान आते नहीं, तुम मीरा के जैसे बुलाते नहीं, तुम मीरा के जैसे बुलाते नहीं, कौन कहते हैं भगवान खाते नहीं, कौन कहते हैं भगवान खाते नहीं, बेर शबरी के जैसे खिलाते नहीं, बेर शबरी के जैसे खिलाते नहीं, कौन कहते हैं भगवान नाचते नहीं, कौन कहते हैं भगवान नाचते नहीं, गोपियों की तरह तुम नचाते नहीं, गोपियों की तरह तुम नचाते नहीं, कौन कहते हैं भगवान सोते नहीं, कौन कहते हैं भगवान सोते नहीं, माँ यशोदा के जैसे सुलाते नहीं, माँ यशोदा के जैसे सुलाते नहीं, अच्युतम केशवम कृष्ण दामोदरम, अच्युतम केशवम कृष्ण दामोदरम, राम नारायणं जानकी वल्लभं, राम नारायणं जानकी वल्लभं, राम नारायणं जानकी वल्लभं.
Wonderful. Both of you are awesome. And I'm so glad your audio cooperated completely throughout. Beautiful rendition. See, so many hearts and loved it. You guys are awesome. Like to hear more performances from you and very beautifully sung. Loved it. And with guitar, this is the first time I've heard this bhajan along with guitar. Very nice. Thank you, Anubhuti. Thank you, Urvi. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was mesmerizing. Lots of applause pouring in. Thank you so much.
All right, we can probably take one more bhajan today. Payalji.
Payalji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yes, Payalji.
Radhe Radhe, Pallavi ji,
Ready for it.
Nitin ji.
It was awesome today. So
Yeah. Today I would like to give a try to Adaram Maduram. Yeah. Adaram Maduram Vandanam Maduram Nayanam Maduram Hasitam Maduram Adaram Maduram Vandanam Maduram Nayanam Maduram Hasitam Maduram Hridayam Maduram Gamanam Maduram Madhuradipati Akhilam Maduram Vachanam Maduram Charitam Maduram Vasanam Maduram Valitam Maduram Chalitam Maduram Brahmitam Maduram Madhuradipati Akhilam Maduram Adaram Maduram Vandanam Maduram Nayanam Maduram Hasitam Maduram. Radhe Radhe.
wonderful, beautiful, Payalji. Very nice. It has the same tune as the other one, right? At Vrindavan mein, meri umar beet gayi Gokul mein. It's a beautiful. These two bhajans are pretty amazing. I know we could only take two today. I had a hard stop as well. Lakshmi ji and I think Ashutosh ji, you wanted to do that as well, please. We will give you first preference tomorrow. We try to wrap it up before 10:20 every day. So sorry about that, Lakshmi ji. We will have you take it the pole position tomorrow with singing. I know you've been preparing for a while, and same thing in case you wanted to sing as well, Ashutosh ji. But great session, and thank you for all the beautiful renditions, Payal ji, Anubhuti, and Urvi. That was a perfect rounding off of today's session, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We'll pick up another interesting topic in chapter 2. This has just so many topics, and then this bhajan segment is really adding a lot of bhakti ras to it, which I'm thoroughly enjoying, and I'm sure all the participants as well. So thank you again. With that, we come to the end of today's session. Wish you a blessed day and a great rest of your evening ahead, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Nitinji, for an awesome session. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day. Have a blessed day.